Initiating podcast download. Prepare yourself. Put on your spandex. Lace up your boots. Wrap your wrists. Hide your razor blade. Head to gorilla position. Grease up your hair. Apply baby oil. Okay, apply more baby oil. Get into gimmick. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Have fun and be safe out there, brother. Welcome to Iron on Wrestling. Now your host, Gregory Iron.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Iron on Wrestling with Gregory Iron. I'm your host, Gregory Iron. This is episode 232. Boo-hoo, because I'm saying goodbye. It's the last free episode of the show. I mean, technically it's still going to be free, but it's just going to be on Patreon. I'm not putting it on iTunes or Spotify or any of that stuff anymore. Maybe I'll put like little previews so you can go over to the Patreon, sign up to my free tier. But I'm done with this. I'm over it. I've been doing this basically alone every week. I've got no Aaron Bauer. He doesn't interrupt me anymore because he doesn't come over because he got a hurt leg. We can't get him to Zoom properly. It's a nightmare. However, the only thing saving me from this nightmare is my longtime close personal friend and confidant, Sean Flash Robbins. Hello, Sean.
Hello, and I'm glad to be of service.
You could say that it is a surprise to see you. I'm only saying that because we're going to talk about big surprise returns in professional wrestling. Because I don't know if you've heard, I don't know, is it true that there was a big surprise return this past weekend in professional wrestling? Did I miss something on the internet?
It's my understanding that there were 3.
Okay, yep. I think R-Truth was the big one.
Yeah, that was the big one.
Okay. But then in second place was Randy Orton, which was kind of a surprise. Like, they didn't say his name, but then they made a video package on Survivor Series where it was clearly him in the video package, like Apex Predator.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes said he has a legacy with this person. I think a lot of people thought it was Ted DiBiase Jr., but then they thought, like, oh, he's going to prison soon.
Yeah.
And then people started thinking about prison and, like, well, they started relating things to Tammy Lynn Sitch, but now she's going to prison for like 20 years, which we have a full video over on the Iron on Wrestling YouTube that we just posted. But I think it ended up being Randy Orton, like everyone thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think them doing the, little thing where Cody said, the legacy thing and Apex Predator and all that was like part of how you got worked into not expecting CM Punk.
Yes.
Because you were like, they're trying to make sure that he doesn't get booed on his return.
Yes, and so the big surprise ended up being the man known to many as Chick Magnet, Cookie Monster, Crooked Moonsault Punk. And what a surprise it was. I want to talk a little bit about Survivor Series, the return of CM Punk, and of course, some other big surprises that really popped me, shocked me in the history of professional wrestling. I'm sure we'll leave some things out, but you could comment below about those. You can also contact us on social media and say, hey, Gregory Iron, you effing moron, you forgot about this surprise return. Just comment below or send it to us at Iron on Wrestling on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I was going to start one of those thread accounts for it, but I don't think anybody is really using threads. I think for like a week they were like, oh, I hate Elon Musk, and then they just stopped using it.
I think people are using it.
Are they?
Who just stopped posting? There's something I saw the other day of like, I think it's like Stephen Colbert's late night show, whatever the one he has.
Okay.
They stopped. They're not like active on Twitter, but they're active on threads. And,
okay.
I think everybody would agree that if Stephen Colbert's doing it, then that's the hot thing to do.
Sure. All right. Well, maybe I'll go over to threads at some point, but I mean, just contact the show. Let's create some engagement here. And again, As a reminder, patreon.com/IronWrestling. That's where you can get bonus and exclusive content in the paid tiers. $3 gets you in the door with the past audio content and some future audio content. $5 gets you all the bonus video stuff that we're working on. $9 is the perfect tier to not only pick subjects, get your questions answered first by the show, but also you get involved in the Zoom chat that we do once a month where I'm going to talk about stuff that I never, ever, ever, ever talk about on the show. There's more and more tiers where you can get stuff in the mail from me and you can do the podcast with me. But it's important, again, to mention that from now on, the show is going to be free on Patreon. So I'm still going to try to drop something weekly, but it's not going to be right on Wednesday for sure. I might sporadically just upload 2 or 3 shows during the week, audio only, just to give you my thoughts, feedback on things. But if you want to keep getting the content that you know and love from Iron and Wrestling, you got to sign up for the free tier. Costs you nothing. Patreon.com/Iron and Wrestling. It's a new feature that is working for all the Patreons out there. They can offer free content for subscribers. So just subscribe. Take 2 minutes to sign up for Patreon and subscribe for free to Iron on Wrestling. And if you're feeling froggy, leap to one of the other tiers, $3 tier, $5 tier. If you just want to support the show for $1 because you like what we do that, okay? It's the best way to support me and my escapades with professional wrestling. But now that I'm done rambling, I feel like we should take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about Survivor Series and the return of Phil Brooks, CM Punk. Hey, Aaron, why are you wearing this shirt?
I went through my closet and I could not find one really good shirt with a good shirt design. But if I had a shirt that I could pick any shirt in the whole world that I would wear a shirt that had maybe this band, Metallica, but I want the drummer and the bass player on a cloud in heaven because their granddaddy passed away.
Okay.
And then on this cloud, there's a second cloud. And it's James Hetfield and Matt Justice. And they have fishing poles. They've been fishing. I would have to find someone that could design that kind of a shirt.
You know, if you do need a better t-shirt design, you should probably contact Juan Ortiz and Up the Dead Designs. He's a good buddy. He's been in the industry for over 15 years, and he's made some t-shirt designs for the most prolific people within professional wrestling.
Ellsworth?
No, he has not made a design for James Ellsworth. But he has made designs for Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Seth Rollins, Undertaker. He's even made shirts and stuff for Iron on Wrestling. Check out this sweet logo. Hey, Sean, edit in that picture of our new logo with Aaron and myself on clouds of fishing poles. If you need a t-shirt design, a logo for your small business or your big business, or if you want to win over a girl, I've never done that before. If you mention Iron on Wrestling sent you, and you follow his new social media at Of the Dead Designs on Instagram, he's gonna knock off $20 at his already cheap prices. Go to Of the Dead Designs on Instagram.
Weebly.
Go to his Facebook at facebook.com/Of the Dead Designs, or go to his website ofthedead.weebly.com, because Of the Dead Designs is bringing your artwork to life. And we're back with more Iron on Wrestling, and I'm not the only one that's back. CM Punk is back. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Survivor Series real quick. I'm not going to do a full in-depth review. I'm sure there's other podcasts that have done that and that you've already watched and you don't want to hear about it again. But here are some of the highlights for me. During the women's match, was it Io Sky that went up to the top rope and wore a fucking trash can on her body and jumped off the top of the cage? That was insane.
Cool. That was pretty cool.
That was awesome. Just the idea that, like, okay, you're already up there and you can kind of see where everybody is, but like you're still blindly diving off the top of the cage. I wouldn't do that in real life, but in the scenario of a wrestling match, 100% would do that. Like I'm so dumb when it comes to being a pro wrestler. Like there are so many things where if you just told me right now, Sean, to go to on the top of my roof and just be like, jump off of the roof, and I'd be like, no, that's stupid. But if we had to do like some sort of wrestling angle and there was like one person that would be waiting to catch me, and you were like, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars, and which the amount of money that you're going to pay me is not enough for a regular ass person to jump off the roof of their house, but it's a wrestling angle. So you're like, here's X amount of dollars, jump off that roof. I'd be like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, what? Wrestling is stupid.
Yeah.
That being said, much safer in the confines of a cage in WWE with like 5 women catching you. I think it was the whole other team catching her or whatever. But regardless, absolutely insane. Yeah. Great women's War Games match. I still don't know if I like doing 2 War Games matches on the show. Like, it's the only thing that I think it works for is the Rumble doing the same match on the show. I feel like sometimes doing 2 gimmick matches on the show dilutes both matches to an extent.
Of the same type, or just
of the same type, yeah. So, but like, I didn't think either match was bad.
Sure.
The women really killed in the match. It's going to be interesting to see what Charlotte and Becky do going forward, if they're going to be a little unit or whatever. Obviously, as we post this on Wednesday, it still probably won't have happened, but I think Bayley is probably going to be turning face. I think Damage Control is going to turn on her. That's what it seems like it's going to happen. Trying to think of anything else that came out of that match. I don't know. Miz was a great babyface against Walter, Gunther, whatever you want to call him. Constantly surprising people with his work ethic, that being Miz. Like, the way they structured the match, it wasn't long, but Miz has been doing some stuff in the weeks leading up that have made him a very endearing babyface, surprisingly. And Sean, you can tell me if you agree or disagree as a longtime fan. I feel like Miz is getting to the point where he's been around for so long that people just, they kind of want to like him. Like, his face turn seemed really random. I think it started in Saudi Arabia, but like, I don't know. Like, I think people started getting more of an endearing feeling for the Miz after his promo on Bryan all those years ago in that SmackDown backstage show, whatever, Talking Smack or whatever.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And ever since then, it's like, when you, like, his babyface role with Ric Flair years back was kind of forced, but now I just feel like, you know, whatever the company wants to do with Miz, he pulls it off, and surprisingly, he's doing a great job as a babyface.
Yeah, he does keep being a surprise of like how good he is, because you don't really think the Miz is a good wrestler when you think about him. You're like, yeah, he's. But I feel like there's kind of like a micro Cena thing with him, where it's like, you know, the wrestling community, like the hardcores, really turned on Cena long ago. Yeah, and then now it's like we love him again. Yeah. It's probably the same with it's like he's like Hulk Hogan in that way, where, like, you know, when you're a kid, you love Hulk Hogan, and then
he grows up to be a racist, and you're like, damn it, why are you doing this? I own so much Hulk Hogan memorabilia and so many Hulk Hogan t-shirts, and now I look like a racist, and then, you know, I can't ever really be happy about anything he does publicly, because then, like let's say I go to the Hall of Fame and he's about to induct Bruce the Barber Beefcake, and I'm there live and in attendance, and all of a sudden, you know, Real American hits, and I want to feel like a kid because I never really experienced that as a kid, and so I'm trying to think of the person as the character, not the person that's a racist. And so I stand up and I start applauding him very happily, but then there happens to be 3 African-American people right in front of me, and they turn around, they look at me like this, and I slowly go, and I sit back down in my seat, and I don't react because he's kind of racist. Like that? You're saying the Miz is a racist?
Well, that's just a hypothetical. I'm talking about the real world.
Gotcha.
So like...
oh, wait, did he say something racist on the Real World years ago? Did that happen?
Did it?
I think it did.
I didn't even mean for the Real World pun.
Okay.
But I don't know. Maybe. Let's look. I feel like that would be really weird if he did.
Listen, I don't want anybody to dig up the Miz's past.
You're trying to get him canceled.
Again, listen, people make mistakes. I'm not defending racism, okay? I would never do that. But I'm saying, like, hopefully most people grow and change. The rumor about Hogan is that he apologized for being caught saying what he said and not, actually apologizing for what he said. I think the Miz was a different story. I think he did say something. Hannah, my girlfriend, knows for sure what the story was because she used to watch The Real World. I did as well, but I can't remember. I think he said something racist to a girl, not realizing he was being racist, and then apologized for the show and on the show. And like, I'm really getting sidebarred here. I like the Miz as a wrestler, and I think as a person, he's a hard worker. Okay,
let's just agree and move on.
Okay, let's move on. So, I like what they're doing with Santos Escobar. Yeah. I think they firmly established him as a heel. Doing the turn on Ray, his match with Dragon Lee is awesome. I think Dragon Lee for sure could be the guy that might replace Rey Mysterio in the future. I might be speaking a little too soon, but it's looking much better than it did with Sin Cara when people were trying to tout him as the next Rey. That wasn't happening.
Both of them.
Both Sin Caras, yes. Rumor is that there's going to be a little LWO tension, little split ski action, maybe 2 different LWOs. I'm down with that.
Yeah. Black and white and LWO.
Yeah, whatever they decide to do there. Rhea Ripley, always impressive. I enjoyed her match with Zoe Stark. Unfortunately, nobody wants to boo Rhea. She's too over. She's too big of a star now. Yeah. And I think it's almost time that we get her out of the Judgment Day. I don't know what else I'm forgetting from the show, but let's go to the main event, War Games. Great match, structured well, really built the anticipation for the return of Randy Orton throughout the match. Not having him show up to the building on time, questioning whether he would show up. It brought me vibes of the Attitude Era, like specifically when they did the angle at Backlash in 2000 when they were like, Stone Cold had a little bit of an accident. He's not going to make it to the show. And then it made his pop that much bigger when he came out to help The Rock win the WWF Championship from Triple H. So I like building that anticipation throughout the show. Now, to go back in time a little bit and to circle back eventually to the return of CM Punk. We're going to talk a little bit about other surprises within the history of professional wrestling, but this has got to be one of the best ones of all time because... And I don't know if this is because like Triple H is at the helm or what made it that much better, but they worked the surprise in the most realistic way possible. I say that because they did all the little things that you would need to do if you were on the inside to make someone think, yeah, there's no way Punk's coming back because they're doing this. Like 1 week before the show, they announce, without saying Randy Orton, but insinuating that's going to be Randy Orton because they want to stop the CM Punk chance from happening in Chicago where Survivor Series is taking place. There's all this scuttlebutt on the internet that, there's no way we want to sign Randy Orton. They being WWE because,
You mean Punk?
CM Punk, yes. They don't want to sign him because, he's hard to work with, hard to deal with, his track record, his history. Don't want to bring drama in the locker room. There's rumor that all these top guys don't want to work with him, which could be the case. We don't know for sure. We're not backstage. But, everything on the internet, because we have to believe everything on the internet, made us believe that we are not going to get CM Punk. His time in wrestling, at least at the highest level possible, done. Ain't happening. Even during the show, at one point, I think earlier on, and definitely during War Games before Orton comes out, they're starting to get CM Punk chants. And I literally looked at my brother Zach and I was like, they better bring Orton out soon because now they're going to the Punk chants. So they better quell that by having Randy come out. When Randy came out, he looked jacked.
Yes.
Great. All right. He's definitely on a good workout regimen and perhaps maybe some testosterone replacement therapy. I don't know. Can't confirm that. I'm pretty sure that's also legal too. So again, not making any insinuation, but he looks effing great. The best he's looked in a long time. Not that he's ever looked bad.
No.
Punk
looked a lot better than he has in the last few years too.
Well, that's because he trimmed his beard and got a nice haircut.
Well, that's all it takes.
Yeah. It's like he didn't look strikingly old because as a man who's letting his gray come in now and not dyeing his beard, I don't want to be known as dye beard. The longer it grows, the older you look. I mean, that's just the way it is sometimes. And so clearly Punk trimmed it up a little bit. And so for people that don't realize he came back at AEW and haven't seen him in 10 years, I don't think there was a big difference in the way he looked. But we fast forward a little bit. Randy Orton did a great job. He came out there cleaning house. Dominic was the first one to come at him, beat the shit out of Dominic, hit an RKO. He hit a giant RKO, throwing, what's-his-face, Funko Pop head off the top of the cell. What's his name? New guy in Judgment Day?
I can't remember his name.
Jesus. Finn Balor's friend?
Yeah, that's his name.
Yeah. I no disrespect to him, but, my memory with wrestling isn't as good as it used to be. I can remember something from 30 years ago, it was nothing in detail and how many people were in attendance, but I can't even remember the current roster, which, by the way, I think I want to do a current video about this at some point and tell me what you think. Down the line here on YouTube, I think the 2023 roster is the best roster in WWE in 20 years since the 2003 roster.
That's fair. Yeah, because a lot of the wrestlers of the last 20 years most of the time the roster only had a few good wrestlers in it.
Yeah.
Where now there's only a few not great wrestlers in it.
We got to do some fantasy warfare of like 2003 versus 2023 because literally, like, I guess you could argue that maybe the roster of like 2001 when they combined WCW, ECW, and WWE might have been the best roster, but I think like it wasn't exactly then. It was like a year-ish later when they started to be able to sign the guys that they couldn't sign, like
for sure.
Hogan, Hall, Nash, Goldberg, Steiner. They're getting all these random-ass dudes. Like they couldn't get right off the bat. So by 2003, you got the return of Shawn Michaels full-time. Like 2003 was an incredible roster, and I thought it could never be topped. But 2023 is on fire, especially with the return of CM Punk. So we get Cody Rhodes' team winning the War Games match. Randy Orton gives the big assist, even let Cody get the pin, almost saying like, hey, you're the guy now. That was cool, like, because we got the Super RKO, but then he gave Damian Priest the gimmick. Probably should note that Rhea tried to almost cash in the Money in the Bank for him, but that got ixnayed. And
by Randy Orton's entrance.
Yes. And so in the end, celebrating, going on in the ring, I'm ready to go to sleep. Show wasn't too long, but like, man, I'm getting old.
Unintended?
Well, no pun intended. But I get sleepy, and sometimes these shows drag. If I was a little kid, I'd be like, yeah, I need 5-hour wrestling pay-per-views. But then as an adult, once they made 5-hour wrestling pay-per-views, I was like, unalive me. I don't want to say anything else on YouTube. I'm trying to unalive me. Take a gun and just unalive me.
I've seen people say I'm going to kiss myself.
Kiss myself. Wow, I'm going to kiss myself hard.
Yeah, it's a very weird. I think unalive works better.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm standing up. I'm stretching. My brother Zach went to take a pee. I'm sitting here with my girlfriend, and they put the copyright logo on the screen. I'm ready to shut down the TV, and all of a sudden I hear, and I'm like, what the? It was like a dream, okay?
That was about as much of the song you could hear.
Yes, and I was like, and the crowd goes crazy, and then I see the CM Punk thing on the Titantron, and I'm like, I yelled at my brother, oh, my dude, get out here, come here, and he thought I was messing with him, and I'm telling you, last couple of years, as a wrestler, it's hard for me to get emotionally invested, but with Triple H at the helm, I enjoy WWE so much, and with AEW around, the competition, it's fun to watch both shows again. I feel like a kid during the Attitude Era again. Definitely. And like, listen, the Attitude Era wasn't great wrestling-wise, but like for moments, for interactions, switching between companies, it was a blast. And I feel like I never thought I would get to experience this again.
Right. And by the way, I got a question from you saying that.
Yeah.
So now is, like you said, this makes you feel like when you were a kid during the Attitude Era, because we had, the possibility of like guys going from one to the other. Do you think it's better now because the wrestling is better, and B, a lot of these guys? So like, is it more exciting, or is it more exciting when you were a kid?
It's a mixture, man. Like, I don't know. It's so hard to choose because, like, I don't know. All I know is that for a long time that I've longed for this feeling where I'm just like, holy crap, like, I love wrestling. Because I do love wrestling, but I just felt like since I became a wrestler, I love it in a different way. But when the storytelling is done right, I found out that I could still get lost in these moments. So even when I know these guys, I don't know Punk in depth. I had my moment with him 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was at this point.
He gave you a piggyback ride.
He gave me a little piggyback ride. I sat on his shoulders with him and Colt when they were still friends, and I was playing my best Lex Luger at SummerSlam 93, and it was a weird, dreamlike moment. But it's nice that through hard work and keeping your mouth shut, we could still create these surprise moments that even as someone who's been in the business for almost 20 years, I could stand up and go, holy shit, like this is happening right now. Punk comes out, he stands out there, he does the crowd finishes it for him, it's clobbering time. One of the biggest pops I've ever seen.
Right.
And a great way to end the show. I feel like the copyright logo in WWE is like
The end credits of a Marvel movie?
That's exactly what I was going to say, dude. And I feel like that's almost where they got it. I'll have to ask Johnny for sure because they started that in NXT. And I want to say that Johnny and Tommaso pitched that to put the copyright logo.
Genius.
Put the copyright logo up. And then Tommaso does the turn. So you think the show is over, but then, we're still going.
It makes it feel real.
Yes. And like, again, in that moment, like, there was a part of me that day watching Survivor Series was like, man, it would be cool if Punk comes back. And I tried to envision what that would feel like if they could really actually surprise me. But then they actually surprised me, and it felt better than I could have ever imagined. And listen, we're wrapping up this program early tonight as we record on Monday, our final episode on iTunes, Wherever Down podcast, because I want to watch Raw. I want to see Orton come back. I want to see R-Truth with their backstage skit, and I want to see what the hell CM Punk is going to say, because, like, God damn it, even though I'm in this business, I still love wrestling, and I still want to be emotionally invested, and I think that's why we keep coming back week after week, month after month, year after year. Whether you love AEW or WWE or New Japan or Impact or whatever the hell you love, if you love just the indies, there's something about wrestling that makes us create this emotional investment. And no matter how good things are in our life, how bad things are in our life, these larger-than-life characters, these incredible athletes can still help us get lost in the moment and forget about everything else happening in the world around us. And I don't know. I love that feeling. I'm glad that maybe for some people, I myself can create that feeling, but I love that even guys that are my friends can still create that feeling for me. And so I want to watch Raw tonight.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Do you want to talk about some surprise returns that legitimately popped us?
Or debut? Is it returns or debuts?
It's returns or debuts that, like, we legitimately...
I was surprised about AJ Styles coming to WWE.
Royal Rumble 2016.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what that was. Yeah, I think that was a big moment. I wish during the live feed they would have actually cut to the Titantron instead of keeping it on Roman Reigns. I guess that created some intrigue, though, because, like, I didn't know the theme song. It's not like they took his, like, I am.
Yeah.
But they kept it on Roman, and I was like, what? Who's coming out? And then they cut to AJ. I was like, holy crap. Because, like, I mean, legitimately, the month before, for me personally, I mean, I just been on a couple shows with AJ. I think I did, like, one of his last indie shows. He was at 2CW in New York. So it was him and the Bucks. And I remember, hey, what's up, AJ? And talking to him a little bit in the locker room. And then literally a month later, you know, he's in the Rumble. And I was like, what the heck's going on? And then
it was also a time where it seemed like WWE didn't want to hire TNA guys.
Yeah. Well, like, you know, that I feel like up until they actually did something with AJ for a long time, and legitimately, I feel embarrassed by this now because I wonder what if, you know, I don't regret anything, but I remember legitimately having a conversation with Cabana at one point about maybe signing with TNA. This is back in 2011 after I do the thing with Punk and we were on a road trip together. And he was like, would you ever want to go to TNA? And, like, maybe I can help you out. And I was like, I really want to go to WWE, and if I go to TNA, I'll never get signed to WWE. Like, that was like my mindset as a professional. And now I look back at how dumb and narrow-minded that was, because, like, if you're good enough, you know, anything is possible. But also, you know, we've seen so many times reading on the internet, oh, this is what WWE wants. But then that changes like a month later. Like, someone comes in
and breaks the mold.
Yes, the door gets cracked open. They kick it open and they change the perception of what WWE wants. So whatever they want today could change tomorrow. CM Punk did that in a lot of ways. Yes. I think when we talk about indie guys that sort of change perception, they were a little bit bigger, but Edge and Christian, I think, really did that for guys like Punk before him 10 years earlier. But Rey Mysterio, you know, his size changed the perception of a lot of guys. And I think that years later, Daniel Bryan not being the biggest guy in the world, Bryan Danielson being one of the best in the world, but he had to fight and prove that, like, he could be the guy. I remember doing shows with Bryan where he'd cut promos and he has that little smirk on his face, and he'd, like, sometimes, like, and he still does it, like
PWG.
Yeah, like, we're like he's always gonna break character even when he's, like, cutting a serious promo. And I remember thinking, like, man, if Bryan went to WWE, that could hurt him. Like, what do I know? he overcame all the obstacles, and he became one of the most over wrestlers of all time, to where they had no choice but to do something with him.
Cody Rhodes returning to WWE should be one of these.
Listen, again, it was something that we sort of known, but didn't know for sure. And I think not only was it a surprise, the best moment for me as a fan was hearing the Kingdom theme.
Yes.
Because I was like, oh, if he comes, is he going to bring that song with him? And
his logo. He's exactly the way that he was before.
Well, I would hate that if they don't let him use the logo, because it is tattooed on his neck.
Right.
That would be very awkward.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like a legitimate great feeling to see Cody come over there and just kill it with Seth. One that I put on my list was Brock Lesnar returning in 2012.
That was pretty cool.
Okay, it was one of those things where, again, the internet wanted it to happen. They kind of knew that it was going to happen the night after WrestleMania. But when that music hit and he came out and confronted John Cena, especially during the time where John Cena was maybe more polarizing than ever.
Yes.
And he beat the shit out of John Cena, and they set up that match for Extreme Rules. And he has like his... I don't think he had the Jimmy John's logo on him, but like he was so over that not only did he get signed to a contract that was unique to him, but like he's like the first wrestler ever who gets to bring in his own sponsorship, get paid outside of WWE while he's working in WWE. And it's hard to believe that
which was one of the reasons that CM Punk was so mad, wasn't it?
Might have been.
He had that idea and they wouldn't let him do it.
Yeah. So that's probably a thing that happened. But yeah. Brock, in a lot of ways, like, say what you will about Brock, he's a part-timer or whatever the hell, but like, it's crazy to think about his run now. Mm-hmm. On and off has been basically 10 plus years, longer than his original run. In a lot of ways, Brock's first run is great because he was a different type of wrestler. He did more technical stuff. Yeah. I think a lot of people sometimes get sick of Suplex City. I know I went through that phase for a little bit, but in general, what it comes down to is, and I've said that on the show before and I'll say it again, at the end of the day, when it comes down to doing business and when it comes down to selling for someone, even though he's this giant monster, he sells better than someone his size, maybe the best big man of all time. I think the only argument could be for someone of his size. This might be getting a lot of negative feedback, but I think Hulk Hogan, I think what made him an endearing babyface is the fact that despite being 6'8", having 24-inch pythons, weighing 303 pounds, he created this emotional investment where you wanted to see him come back. Like, name another 6'8" guy that could make you forget he's 6'8" and get the crap beat out of him for an entire match, make a big comeback, start no-selling everything, and you want to cheer for him.
Right.
So, John Cena's 2008 Royal Rumble return.
Oh, yeah.
Shocker.
Great one.
He gets injured in like October. I think it was in Cleveland from Mr. Kennedy, and we thought he was going to be out for months and months. Comes back as a surprise, number 30. Was he number 30 that year? I think he was. I think he was. And I think he ends up besting Triple H in the end. Legitimate pop in Madison Square Garden. And, debut, we didn't know what was happening on that same show that I think people looked at and they're like, oh my God, it's the guy from American Gladiators, Mike Adamle. People were like, wow, this guy is in WWE now. It's crazy. Now he got a little bit of a rough start by saying Jeff Harvey, but I think from there it was only up for Mike Adamle. I don't think anybody remembers the John Cena return because of Mike Adamle's incredible performance on that show.
Sometimes you get overshadowed. It happens to the best of us, John Cena. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. What other surprises do you have?
I've got Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole debuting in AEW.
I think that was good stuff.
The Adam Cole one, because it was in the same moment. So, you didn't think... it was cool to see Adam Cole, but you weren't shocked. You were like, well, these are his friends. Of course he's going to go there.
Yeah.
But then Bryan Danielson comes out afterwards and definitely didn't expect there to be 2 debuts.
No. And here's the thing, with those debuts, this is right around the time where, Vince is still in power, and it's like, well, these guys got to go to the other company so they could be who they really want to be, right? Like the rumor was, particularly with Adam Cole, they wanted to make a manager. Mm-hmm. They wanted him to cut his hair. I heard that in a meeting with Johnny Ace, who was still the was it talent relations guy backstage, that he said, we see you as one of the best workers out there, like a Dolph Ziggler. And that's when Adam Cole realized, I do not want to resign. Because, okay, you might see Dolph Ziggler as one of the best workers, but when's the last time he's done anything of importance? Mm-hmm. And now we see Dolph Ziggler does not have a job. So Adam Cole then decided to go to AEW. So, I mean, and I think it's been working out for Adam. At first, it was a slow start, but despite his injury right now, his storyline with MJF has been super compelling.
For sure.
And I don't know where it's going to lead. I don't know who the devil's going to be.
Well, we know who it ain't.
We know who it ain't. So, like, that's probably been the most intriguing storyline. I probably wish they wouldn't put MJF in so many different angles right now, because he's in a lot of them. It's like he's like their most reliable guy, and he can do anything. But maybe they should put some other people in some segments. But also, from what I read on the internet, again, everything on the internet's true, that he might have pitched being a babyface to make himself look more appealing to WWE. And wouldn't that be horrible if Tony Khan has not already re-signed MJF to a buttload of money?
Yeah.
If MJF takes his services over to WWE, it's going to be such a shot in the arm for WWE and such a hindrance to AEW. Because, like,
be devastating for them.
In the past year-ish, you've lost 2 years Cody Rhodes, okay, an EVP, Jade Cargill, who lost to no one except for one time, who legitimately looks like a superstar, CM Punk, who might have at this point purposely got himself fired.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say they lost him. It is different. He was fired. It's not
yes,
really
but
the same
but I mean, like,
Cody leaving.
Do you think Tony Khan was pumped when he saw CM Punk show up at Survivor Series?
Well, I think
when
he
could have
can't
been
legally talk about it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's what he said. Thanks, guys. I think he probably thought to himself, I started a Saturday night show built around CM Punk, and if he wasn't fired, he would be on this show right now. Right. But instead, he's walking out in Chicago at Survivor Series that has 17,000 people in the building, and I just ran Chicago again for like the 12th time in a year. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong about that. Clearly the Chicago market likes AEW, but there's diminishing returns. Every time they go back somewhere, the crowds are getting less and less and less. And I think it's been one of their bigger crowds in Chicago. It's like 5,000 some people, but like 2 nights in a row, WWE ran the same building in Chicago and did 17,000. So like, what's happening here? It's not good.
Right.
I want to talk about some more returns, surprises, debuts, but I think we should take another commercial break. When we come back, we will talk about a few more, and we will close out the final episode of Iron on Wrestling on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you download podcasts. Go to Patreon. Sign up. I swear, if you don't do it, I will...
Sir, hello. Dude, they work on guy.
What are you doing? Why are you acting like Razor Ramon with his bad form in the Ico Pro commercial?
You talking to me, man? Carve you up.
Talk like a normal person.
Oh, I'm here because I'm working out. Oh, from TNT Health, baby. Have you tried it?
We know that Aaron's tried it. In fact, since the start of the year, Aaron's lost over 50 pounds while using supplements from TNT-Health.com. TNT Health is focused on your overall comprehensive health. They help track your eating, your workouts, and your supplements. TNT Health sells results. I use the creatine, the glutamine, and do you think that I'm not using the protein powder? With 154 calories and 25 grams of protein per scoop, I assure you, the vanilla protein powder is great with or without water.
That's how you take your protein. Don't you... Water, dude.
You know, maybe Aaron's right. Use it with water or milk. Go to TNT-Health.com right now, buy any of their great products and save 10% off with our promo code IRONON.
TNT Health.
Your health today,
not tomorrow.
And we are back with one final Iron on Wrestling segment. It's the same segment that we were doing before the commercial break, but it's the final segment before we move exclusively to patreon.com/Iron on Wrestling. Occasionally, we'll still have videos up on the YouTube from the podcast as little previews, so obviously subscribe to the podcast. We might even have full-length episodes on the YouTube still in the future periodically, but if you want to get all the audio, go to patreon.com/Iron on Wrestling. Sign up for the free tier. That's where you're going to continue to get the same great content that you know and love from myself and Iron on Wrestling. But today we are talking about surprise returns and debuts in professional wrestling, and we're going to continue that discussion for a little while longer. And when I talk about surprises, when I think about surprises in pro wrestling, there was nothing more shocking than in 2002, July of 2002, to me personally, this was a shocker, knowing how the feud between WCW and WWF played out. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would see Eazy-E, Eric Bischoff, on WWE television. But that came to fruition when he showed up as the new general manager in July of that year and hugged Vince McMahon. Sean, I know you said to me off air before we started recording, you didn't know really who Eric Bischoff was because you're like a small child. But
I wasn't a small child. I didn't watch WCW.
That's fine. You're a small child. And but I watched that moment so many times because I was a big fan of Eric Bischoff. Yeah. I obviously loved WCW for definitely the 83 weeks, but beyond that, I was always a WWF kid, but during that time period, you couldn't help but love the NWO and Goldberg and Diamond Dallas Page.
I appreciate it now, but back then, I watched what my grandpa watched.
Yes. Well, your grandpa was just watching WWF?
Yep.
Okay. All right. That's fair. Just Eric Bischoff showing up, the way they did the segment with him showing up to shock Booker T before we went into commercial break, back when you had to actually call people to tell them what was happening on the television. I called my buddy Andrew, who was my best friend in middle school and high school, and we always talked wrestling, and I made sure that he was watching, which he was. He was the same guy that, we had the discussion the next day after it was during the weekend, that Friday, March 23rd, 2001, that I went on the internet and said, WWF purchases WCW. So that Monday in school, I remember standing at the pisser with Andrew in the bathroom, and because we didn't have the same class anymore, and I was like, dude, did you hear the news? And he was like, oh yeah, WWF bought WCW. I'm like, what's Nitro going to be like tonight? What's Raw going to be like tonight? It was a crazy moment. So it was that same feeling via the phone call, because it's summer break, with my buddy Andrew. And I watched that segment so many times with him saying 80, I think he said 84 weeks in a row. He didn't say 83 weeks, so he got his own information wrong. But man, it was like hell froze over. Kind of like CM Punk showing up, but right. Bischoff showing up in the WWF.
Definitely.
Crazy times.
Oh yeah, man. It was, even though I didn't know who he was, obviously it's not like I looked it up and stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. I now, knowing what I know, I recognize how crazy it was more than I did in the moment. But yeah, I was just like, who is this dude? And why is he back and better than ever? He's never here before.
Okay. Well, he didn't come out to that theme that first night. The first night he came out to Back in Black, which apparently they did not get the licensing rights for that, which is why in everything since then they added over it with the I'm Back and Better Than Ever song. So.
Oh, wow. I don't even remember that. I knew that he did come out to that, but...
Yeah, fun fact for you. Not really a fun fact. I'm just a nerdy, pathetic loser.
Yeah, it's just a fact.
It's crazy that several women have had intercourse with me over the past 2 decades.
I thought you were going to say past 2 days. That's not true.
Only one woman. Yeah.
Tell us about it.
No, that's okay. Give me some more surprise returns or debuts that shocked you, Sean.
Well, I didn't know who he was, because I didn't watch WCW, but Chris Jericho's WWF debut that had a very good reaction.
Yeah, I think a lot of the internet knew, even though the internet was still growing in 1999, but just the fact that, we got that Titantron pop up on the screen after the countdown, and, the Jericho on the screen really gave us the Iggy, as they say in the business, that, oh yeah, this is Chris Jericho from WCW. And despite him being a heel for the majority of his run, boy, that got a massive pop. And him interrupting The Rock was just right off the bat. You knew like they want to make this guy a star.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was, but he became my favorite. He was the first wrestler that I liked even when they were a heel.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I'm not supposed to like this guy, but I like him.
Yeah, I think Jericho was one of those guys for me too. Jericho, and then around that same time, Kurt Angle. Even though they were portraying him as a bad guy, like there was something about that dorky personality, but also like him insulting the hometown crowds.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like I was starting to get like real angsty and stuff, and I was like, I like that he kind of just talks shit to people in like a snarky way.
He was like if Carlton from Fresh Prince was an Olympic gold medalist and then a wrestler.
Yeah. That's a great comparison. Jericho's 99 debut was awesome, but also I think his return in 2007 was also pretty fun, especially because they did the Save Me thing with the videos, and everybody was trying to read into something more than what it was, like finding all the clues and the hints in the video. And I think Triple H has taken a lot of borrowing from that with some of the stuff he's been doing over the last couple of years, particularly I think of Bray Wyatt. I think his return wasn't much of a surprise, but we didn't know when or where it was going to happen. So when he came back, I think that was one of the bigger pops, and it gave us that the most real version of Bray Wyatt we would see on camera on SmackDown the following week. When did he come back? I think it was a year ago at was it whatever the October pay-per-view was, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember what the pay-per-view was, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Okay, yeah. So like, I mean, that was a big deal when Bray came back. I wish like we would have got to see more wrestling from him during that time period, but I think we now know that he was still dealing with a lot of his health issues, which is why we got a lot of promos more than anything. I wish he could have had a better match than the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it was at Extreme Rules.
Okay, there you go. So, but yeah, Jericho coming back in 2007 was awesome, and I don't think the babyface pop lasted too long. It seemed like we were pumped when he came back, and then he just kind of lingered in the mid card. It wasn't until he turned heel the next year that I think Jericho really came into his own during that second run. But I'm rambling. The return, though, great pop, interrupted Randy Orton, good times. Something we didn't talk about before we started recording that I think is important to mention. The surprise debut, which, again, in 2014, I think the internet's pretty smart to everything. Things leak out. Sting showing up at Survivor Series. I was actually trying to think, like, man, like, with the exception of Survivor Series 97, this Survivor Series might have been the best surprise ending to a show in a long time, other than Survivor Series 97. And I forgot about the Sting debut, which was incredible. An incredible moment. Again, it would have been better if he would have beat Triple H at WrestleMania. I don't think they needed to make it WCW versus WWE in 2015. Didn't. But I think a lot of people were pumped and shocked by the debuting Sting.
I mean, also, it didn't, why would the NWO help Sting? I thought that was weird.
It was weird.
And then also, we all are smart enough to know that, Triple H is truly friends with Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. So why would they be like, fuck you, my friend?
It was just an excuse to do DX versus NWO, which they never got to do.
Yeah.
But also, I hated the finish of that match with, the sledgehammer shot, and then, Triple H offers his hand, and Sting shakes his hand like, well, you did crack me in the head with a sledgehammer, and this is the biggest match of my entire career, and I didn't put adequate enough hairspray in my hair, so I look kind of bald, and this is embarrassing for me, but okay, sure, I'll shake your hand.
Yeah, I remember, making out that's what Sting was saying. You could if you read his lips, that's actually word for word.
I think that was the exact quote, actually.
And then he said, it's showtime.
Okay. Scott Hall showing up in WCW. Obviously goes without saying. Kevin Nash following suit, and of course Hulk Hogan coming out, returning after filming the holiday classic Santa with Muscles to turn heel and form the New World Organization, brother. Great moment in time. If that didn't happen, Eric Bischoff would have never made it to WWE. He would still be selling meat from the back of a truck. We all know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously that was a huge shock, surprise, return, debut. I remember watching Hogan join the NWO Live. I've told this before, but they show a backstage segment with Mean Gene Okerlund, standing in front of a locker room where the third man is, and he's saying, I hear a faint voice and it's recognizable, but I can't seem to place it exactly. And I remember being over at a kid's house who I never hung out with before or after. He invited me over to watch the pay-per-view, and I remember the dude's dad going, it's Hulk Hogan. And I was like, that's not Hulk Hogan, you idiot. Like, that's the stupidest thing you could have ever said. And then during the match when Hulk Hogan came out, I look back at this dude's dad and I go, see, he's coming out with WCW. You idiot. You actual moron. And then when he dropped the leg on Randy Savage, you know, I'm like staring at the screen in shock, and I just hear this dude go, told you. Does it again. He goes, told you it was Hogan. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm in disbelief. And again.
Yeah, you were like, well, whose side is he on?
Well, now I knew. And even though I knew wrestling was predetermined at that point, still, I sat at the dining room table with this kid and his siblings, and I remember shaking my head. And my grandma had passed away 15 months earlier. She was a huge Hulkamaniac, and I remember sitting at the table shaking my head and going, I'm just glad Grandma wasn't around to see this. Like, that's how real that was.
Sure. No, yeah, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you.
I think you're laughing at the death of my grandmother.
No, I don't even know her.
Who tragically died of bone cancer.
Gross. No, I didn't know. All right, I thought this was all a joke.
You know, honestly, you know, I didn't want her to pass away, but maybe it was for the best, because if she would have saw Austin 316, very religious woman, I would not have been allowed to watch wrestling anymore, for sure. Okay. Like, I mean, she had like weird bands on like she would tell me on a regular basis, I hope you're not watching The Simpsons when you go home. I'm like, I am not, Grandma. Yeah. Anybody who watches The Simpsons can eat my shorts.
Yeah, right. And then you went home and you were playing I got an Audi.
Yeah. Actually, fun fact for all you Simpsons fans out there, you know, on that episode they used In the Garden of Eden as the song, but originally they wanted to use Genesis Jesus, He Knows Me. Really? But they couldn't secure the rights, and it was like very last second, so they ended up going with that instead.
I think it worked out for the best.
Yeah, I think so, but I also love Jesus, He Knows Me, one of my favorite Genesis songs, and it just shows the range of the great Phil Collins. Mm-hmm. He's not dead yet, but he's old and very sick. So
his son is dead, right?
Oh, God, I hope. Maybe.
Didn't he die in like a plane crash or something? Either way, whether he died in a plane crash or he died from bone cancer, like your grandma. Rest in peace to Phil Collins' maybe son, if we're right about this.
I'm not going to say rest in peace for my grandma?
I thought you were glad she's dead.
I'm not. I'm happy she didn't have to see Austin 316, because also...
So the answer is yes, you're glad she's dead. Okay.
I don't know if she would be pumped that I'm friends with a man who said Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. That's not in the Bible. I checked. There's no book of Austin.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, it might be one of those other books that they didn't put in the Bible, like those ones written by women.
Okay. He's joking. There's no books written by women in the Bible.
Come on.
Okay? All right? They would never hire a woman to do something like that. Any other surprise returns or debuts that you would like to reference here?
Oh, man, I can't think of any. Like, I think a lot of the times, any of the ones that were in TNA, like at first it was like, whoa.
Oh, Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle showing up. Like, I thought that was going to be a game changer for TNA, and it wasn't. It increased the quality of wrestling and gave TNA its biggest pay-per-view buy rate of all time when they did Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle. Uh-huh. But it didn't do the things that we thought it was going to do for TNA. And, you know, that might not necessarily be TNA's fault. You know, there's been a lot of discussion over the years of the fact that they never really traveled, that putting the pay-per-views in the same building all the time kind of gave it like a studio feel. Like maybe if they would have taken the gamble on a regular basis and tried to put it in larger venues, it would have given it a larger than life feel. Like I don't know. Like we will never know for sure. Right. All we know is that, you know, TNA didn't do many things different than what AEW is doing right now, to be fair, but it didn't have the same impact, no pun intended, that AEW's had over the industry over the last 5 years.
Right. But I think TNA paved the way for that, though.
For sure. 100%. And a lot of the style, like if you weren't an independent wrestling fan, you know, and if you were searching for an alternative to WWE, TNA was your place to go. And I think probably more so than WWE in the early 2000s, early 2010s. I think Impact and TNA had a lot of influence on the style that you see today. And like we talked about earlier, you know, we often say that, well, if you go to TNA, you know, you're never going to get signed to WWE. And, you know, there's been so many guys that really proved wrong. In fact, you know, you remember when they did that spot in the Royal Rumble with AJ and Bobby Roode?
Yeah.
Crowd was chanting TNA. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like, you know, it just goes to show.
It's weird how, like, wrestling community loves and hates TNA.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess we love the nostalgia of it, but.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's other returns.
Johnny Gargano returning to WWE. Did we say that one, or was that off air?
Who?
Johnny Gargano, or Johnny Gargano, as some people say.
What's he look like?
He's got black hair.
Real tiny, like not in very good shape.
He's too little to be a wrestler, for sure. He's got like a smiley face on his crotch and stuff.
Does he make like the same face every match, like just kind of void of emotion when he wrestles?
No, his facials are abysmal.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about. He did something in NXT.
Was that NXT? Yeah. I think he did something in NXT. DUI or something like that.
DUI, yeah. Big drinker, that Johnny Gargano, I hear.
Raging alcoholic.
Just out of control.
Yeah.
His return, for what I understand, was pretty good. He got a big pop.
Yeah,
in Canada.
Yeah.
I mean, he did have a history as being a heavyweight champion in Canada at one point, so perhaps maybe that's why.
I've always thought of him as an American.
I would say that he is a real American, and he fights for the rights of every man.
Yeah. Including people of color, unlike the other guy who supposedly fights for the rights of every man. You know,
I don't think you could say people of color. I think that now makes you a racist.
People of color is the correct term, and if you want to look it up, you can. People of color. It's not racist.
Keep in mind, folks, that when doing your canceling, I didn't say that. My producer,
look it up,
Sean Robbins, who you can find on many social media platforms.
If you need the link, gmail.com. Oh, that's my email. Don't email me.
Okay, yeah, just send him all your hate mails.
I edited that out.
I don't know. Yeah, Johnny Gargano's return was great, and I'm still waiting for his ascent to the top of the tag team division, which I'm sure is right around the corner. Okay. Him and Tommaso back together, stronger than ever. They're doing it themselves, for sure.
Which is good.
Yes, but also, listen, when they reunited a few weeks ago, and I know this came as a shock to Johnny, too, because they've never really been on the main roster, the crowd was chanting DIY in the closing segment, main event segment of Raw. So I think that speaks volume about how far they've come.
I do have to say, though, no, this is just a tidbit. Is that the right word? Is it a tidbit?
Titbit. I believe.
What's the word when you...
A bit tit.
This is a nitpick is what I meant to say.
Okay.
I have to say, though, it's just a nitpick. Tidbit. It's just a nitpick. I prefer Johnny Gargano's theme song over the DIY theme song.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah. I wish they would go back to his independent song.
Yeah, I don't remember how you sing it.
Would you come down on my knees and pray? Would you let me? Would you slip away? Honey, I don't remember the words at all. In fact, Curse Icon, Down.
The one from Pro Wrestling Ohio that was like...
That's what I was doing.
Was that it?
You couldn't tell?
No. That was not good. Try it again. You have to do a higher pitched voice.
Honey.
You're going to get us copyright strike.
Sorry. I know I sound just like the lady from Curse Icon, but look it up. It was a great independent theme. I know Johnny grew to hate it because he used it for like 10 years straight. But listen, I think that's a bunch of surprise returns.
Sure is a bunch.
Surprise debuts. I'm sure you guys know a lot more out there on the internet, and you could tweet them at me. You could X them to me. You could comment below on the YouTube channel. Let me know what I forgot. Tell me what a moron I am. Make sure you subscribe to the channel before you do so. And make sure you follow us on social media at Iron and Wrestling. Make sure you follow Iron and Wrestling to Patreon. Patreon.com/Iron and Wrestling. Did I mention there's a free tier there where the podcast is going to be from now on, go take your subscribing ass, okay, from iTunes or wherever you download podcasts, create a Patreon account if you haven't already, and just subscribe. It's free to continue to hear the audio.
Yeah,
while you're at it,
suck ass.
Don't be a suck ass, okay? And while you're at it, follow me on social media. I'm Gregory Iron on X. That's the sound of my career flushing down the toilet. Gregory Iron on X. Instagram at Gregory_Iron. Facebook.com/The Handicapped Hero. You can book me for pro wrestling, motivational speaking, and pro wrestling seminars. I'll be back in Canada for Top Tier Wrestling, Hamilton, in the next couple weeks here. So look to my social media pages for that, especially if you're in the Canadian area. ProWrestlingTees.com/Gregory Iron for my shirts. Aaron shirts to help him while he's recovering from his injury. Iron on Wrestling shirts. And make sure you find me on Cameo. I'm at Gregory Iron on Cameo. I can give you a shout out of some sort. Sean, what would you like to plug, sir?
Nothing.
Okay.
I would like to plug at Iron on Wrestling. It's the greatest podcast around. Everybody knows it.
Okay, that's not true.
Everybody's always like, "Hey, wait, are you Sean from Iron on Wrestling?" And I go, "How do you know? I'm not. You don't see me on there."
It's from your voice.
And it's from my voice, and they're like, "It's so smooth and sexy."
Smooth like a baby's bottom.
Yeah.
And when I think about baby's bottoms, the next thing that I logically think about is kissing.
Wait.
What? Kissing goodbye. And hey, listen, if you never listen to the show again and you're not going to subscribe to Patreon, thank you guys for the last 4 years and your support. And if you want to continue support, Patreon's the way to go. Ignore the fact that I made a joke about kissing and a baby's bottom. Until then, sayonara. Thank you for your time, the opportunity to entertain you. So long. Here's a kiss goodbye.